that we somewhat talked about, but there has been a slight development and a twist. So we're going to start with cops ain't shit across the pond, which we knew. Just like fucking cousins in America. The cops remain ain't shit over there in the UK. Should I write this in my British accent? Will, if you could put up that Guardian piece for me, sir. I don't think my British accent is all that good because I transpose Britain and Ireland and Australia. so, so it comes out as a melange of accents. So let me leave that alone. But check this out. This is a piece that actually came out today and or yesterday. More than 1,500 UK police officers accused of violence against women in, here's the plot twist, 6 months. 6 months time. 1,500 UK police officers accused of violence against women within a span of 6 months. 6 months. 6 months. The subhead reads staggering figures from the National Police Chiefs Council show that less than 1% of those accused have been sacked. Now, sacked is that's English, that's British for fired. See, we cultured over here. We understand different languages and shit. Anyway, let me get into this. So, more than 1,500 police officers have been accused of violent offenses against women and girls over a period of just 6 months, and less than 1% have been sacked, according to new figures. Overall, 1,483 unique allegations were reported against 1,539 officers, okay? Or 0.7% of the workforce, period. Now, let me say this real quick about The Guardian for them to even say that, because I hear different takes about the quality of The Guardian reporting. And to their credit, The Guardian's credit, in the US, The Guardian was one of the mainstream publications that began to track police murders here in the US, and I appreciate them doing that. They stopped doing that, by the way. I guess they couldn't count that high. But for them to put that little caveat in this sentence, okay, that over overall 1,483 allegations were reported against 1,539 officers, or 0.7% of the workforce. I understand that's how it may statistically break down, which, by the way, this is just data collected over a period of 6 months. I'm sure if you extrapolated the collection of that data out over a year, 5 years, 10 years, those numbers would be exponentially higher. But I didn't need the Guardian to do the fucking math for me right there to tell me that's only 0.7%, less than 1% of the workforce. I don't give a goddamn how many percentages of the workforce it is. That is still a highly unreasonable and unfathomable number of officers to be facing allegations, and the specific allegations themselves, over such a short amount of time. So the fact less than 1%, I don't give a goddamn. That's still a lot of assault going on out there. I continue. There were 1,177 cases of alleged police perpetrated violence, including sexual harassment and sexual assault, reported between October 2021 and April 2022, according to the data from the National Police Chiefs Council, the NPCC. And let me stop again right there, because, again, I don't trust no data that's collected by the cops about the cops. You know what I'm saying? They probably said, hey, Johnson. Oh, let me get my British accent. Hey, Roger. Okay, I see those numbers. The numbers are just atrocious, just astronomical. Let's do some subtraction there. Let's take away a couple thousand of those. See, I'm getting Australian again. Okay, let me stop. let me continue. We don't trust information gathered by the police about the fucking police, because that means that those numbers are deeply skewed in the wrong direction to make the police look as good as possible. So imagine those are the numbers that they copped to. Imagine the shit that they swept under the rug or didn't even bother to count at all. Back to the piece. Just over half of the cases, 653, which is 55%, were conduct matters, which are usually raised by colleagues within the force. Interesting. The remaining cases, 524, or about 45%, were complaints from the public. And then the Guardian gets into some interesting stuff a little bit down here. They try to drown you with numbers and fractions, which is okay, I guess. But hold on. Almost 2/3 of the complaints from the public were about the use of force, for example, handcuffing and arrest, while 9% concerned harassing behavior, 6%, hold on, yeah, 6% related to assault, and 5% was pertaining to abuse of position for a sexual purpose. But the lack of discipline for these officers, which I think is really interesting, and the ways in which the police forces take complaints from the public, or the lack of seriousness, I should say, is also very telling. It says for the conduct allegations, 48% of the conduct allegations, which again were allegations made from a colleague against another officer, 48% of those concerned discreditable conduct carried outside working hours, while 19% related to sexual assault, 13% related to sexual harassment, and 6% related to abuse of position for sexual purpose. So, what does that even tell us? So, even within the ranks of the United Kingdom police forces, according to the National Police Chiefs, whatever the fuck, half of the cases concerning colleagues making harassment allegations against other colleagues, a high number of these have to do with sexual harassment, sexual abuse, and abuse of position. So British police obviously don't give a fuck about the bitches they work with, and they damn sure don't give about the bitches in public. Check this out. So just under half of the complaints and nearly three-quarters of the conduct cases, many of them still had not been finalized when the data was collected, but where cases had been closed, 70% of the conduct cases, which is about 136, and 91% of the complaint cases, which again come from the public, 290, were thrown out. So they threw out 91% of the public complaint cases and threw out about 70% of the colleague on colleague complaint cases. So, out of all of these officers so far who have been accused of some sort of violence against women within a 6-month period, only 13 had actually been where is it? Where is it? Let me make sure I'm saying this right. It said just 13 of the officers and staff who were sacked for misconduct. That's it, just 13. And nobody was fired as a result of public complaints. So they did fire 13 officers and staff as a result of conduct complaints, colleague on colleague complaints. But for people from the public making public complaints against police officers, not a single one was fired. Not a one. Not a one. Not now a one. Now, let's be clear here. I mean, none of this is, let me not say, okay, it is shocking. It should not be shocking. Because again, let me just speak for myself here. You know, I do believe cops ain't shit. I do stand firm on that. But the ways and we have been so heavily socially conditioned to default give police the benefit of the doubt and be like, wait a minute, how could it be that many? How could it be that many? It of course it's probably more. Don't fret about how many they reported. Fret about the many that they didn't report and how they telling us to our face. They are not concerned about your public complaints about harassment, mistreatment, misconduct, bitches. Because this is what this report is about. That over 1,500 officers within a 6-month period had allegations of violence against women. And the fact that all of the public complaints, not now officer has yet been fired, tells me that you bitches be lying. Let me stop. Let me stop because I'm bitches. And I don't be lying. Not when it comes about shit like this. Oh, I don't be, well, yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother story. But no, about that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you so much, Damien, for sending me this wonderful piece of rage. When I read this, I got immediately angry. But this is no different than how police deal with women. I'm imagining it everywhere, but let's stick with the Western imperialist powers here. Let me stick within the belly of the beast in which I currently reside. In the United States, the police officers, law enforcement officers, correctional officers, these people are amongst the professions that usually rank the highest for rates of domestic violence, domestic battery, domestic abuse. These are the people who be beating up their spouses, their partners. Usually in these hetero dynamic, relationships, a man woman relationship, the man law enforcement officer is more likely to be domestically violent with their partner. They are more likely to commit acts of sexual assault and sexual harassment whilst on and off the job. This denotes a larger problem with policing than any of these elected officials or police chief or these national councils of police. These people do not want to acknowledge these systemic issues of misogyny, misogynoir, more specifically, transphobia, homophobia, and outright systemic racism. I'd be curious how these numbers, these harassment and violence against women numbers from the UK, I wonder how this breaks down via race. I don't think the Guardian got to that part. Or maybe the National Police Chiefs, that wasn't data that they were actually collecting. I don't see it in here. But that's amazing because again, what is the story for policing? Oh, well, police keep the community safe. Women can call on police to remove their abusive partner if need be. Well, what if you are with the police and the police is your abusive partner? Then what? Oh, well, I guess you have to go into the law enforcement ranks yourself and become a law enforcement officer because that's the only way the agencies in the UK are going to believe you. Because if you're a member of the public making a public complaint about a police officer harassing you, assaulting you, trying to use their position to leverage some sort of, sexual favor out of you, oh, well, ain't shit gonna happen to them. They will not be sacked. They will not be sacked. Every time I hear sacked, I see NFL. I can't sacked and fired. Don't that's not even the synonym that I would use. Maybe the Brits should reconsider. Say, y'all, maybe come up with a different word. It doesn't sound as well, I don't know what sack sounds like. Anyway, let me shut up. So that's my first cop say shit story. I got more.